The latest. Thank you for all love and support. I appreciate you all. Africa. If only we can unite as a people to take control over everything that has to do with the African within the shortest possible time, a year or two. The people that are always looking down upon us will come back begging us. And that is the reason to which they are doing everything possible, making sure that the leaders that will rule us, like Captain Ibrahim Traore said, they pick them, groom them over there, and bring them back here to come and lead us. So what will they do? They will only lead in the interest of their masters. The United States of America has shut down because they don't have money. They have run out of money. Look at what is happening in France, Germany, now the United States of America.
Just how concerned are you about the fact that the White House is threatening not to just furlough workers, but to fire them?
Yeah, I mean, again, it just shows you just the extremism of what they're doing. And they're threatening to fire federal workers. They have already fired hundreds of thousands of federal workers. Their budget that they're trying to ram through would fire hundreds of thousands of federal workers. It is an attack upon our government and, frankly, our Constitution in terms of how we're trying to engage.
Let's take a look now at Capitol Hill, where the government has shut down for the first time in nearly 7 years. At midnight, the government ran out of money. Both sides are blaming the other, while millions of federal workers brace for what is a very uncertain future. What was the final chance to keep the government open failed tonight in the Senate. Majority Leader Thune and Minority Leader Schumer had this to say.
Well, I know why we're doing this, Mr. President. The Democrats' far left base said jump, and Democrat leaders said how high. But the far left's determination to oppose anything President Trump has ever said or done is not a good reason for subjecting the American people to the pain of a government shutdown.
It's natural that people understand that Donald Trump and the Republicans want to shut down and Democrats do not. We need to deal with this health care crisis now, not later. But the Republican bill fails to do that. I urge my Republican colleagues instead to join with us, work in good faith to keep the government open, keep costs down.
President Trump is threatening to fire federal workers and cut programs and benefits. He also said he can do things that are irreversible. Democrats rallied on Capitol Hill earlier today in a show of unity and demanded that Medicaid cuts be restored, saying Republicans would rather shut down the government than protect the health care of the American people. And with the government shutdown now in effect, Jay O'Brien joins us from Capitol Hill. Jay, what happens now?
Lindsay, it means the apparatus of the federal government slowly grinds to a halt. The longer a shutdown goes, the worse the effects become because money begins to dry up. For the nearly 4 million federal employees, it means that if the government shutdown continues to roll into the month of October, they will start missing paychecks. The first federal paycheck of October is already going to be processed because it's money that was already set to go out this week. But then there's another paycheck that comes up for federal employees. We're talking about troops, their families, other federal employees in the middle of the month. And if the shutdown lasts until then, they will miss that crucial paycheck. There will be some employees that are told to come to work and still work without getting paid, and they will ultimately get back pay assuming the shutdown ends. Those are employees like TSA agents, air traffic controllers, people that do weather forecasting for the National Weather Service. And then other federal employees will be furloughed and told not to show up to work. That will start to happen today in Washington, D.C., OMB says. Those employees will start to get their marching orders as of today. But as the shutdown grinds on, if it lasts for a certain chunk of time, money will start to dry up in key federal programs like SNAP, which is the Nutrition Assistance Program for lower income Americans, like WIC, which is nutrition assistance for mothers and infants, and the list goes on. Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, that will still be processed, but you could also see delays there too the longer the shutdown rolls. It is a slow grinding, as I said, of the federal government to a halt that could be seriously detrimental for millions of Americans.
And if history is any indication, any predictions here as far as how long a shutdown could go on?
The longest shutdown in U.S. history was 35 days, Lindsay. That was in the first Trump administration. But right now, neither side is really close to a deal. As you heard earlier, Democrats are holding out. They want an extension of Obamacare tax credits. Republicans are accusing Democrats of holding a gun to the head, as the vice president said earlier, of the federal government to negotiate. Democrats have said, look, they want to negotiate with Republicans. Republicans have said, don't do that with the federal government in play. We'll negotiate at a later date. But it's really up to Democrats here. They feel right now that they have the political momentum to try to extract this concession on these Obamacare tax credits out of Republicans. They feel they have the political will, but the longer a shutdown grinds on, the question facing Democrats is how long will they be willing for this to last?
Jay O'Brien from Capitol Hill. Thanks so much, Jay. And not long before the shutdown, we caught up with New Jersey Senator Andy Kim. All right, let's just start here. Where do we go at this point?
Right now, it is inevitable that we're going to have a shutdown in 3 hours, and that is an abdication of leadership. You know, that really falls upon President Trump, the leadership in the Senate and the House on the Republican side that control the gavel. So this is something where the American people are waking up, seeing the type of abdication of leadership and dereliction of duty. You know, I'm here at the Senate. We've been here all day. We've been trying to negotiate all week. But what I will say, who is not here are the people in the House of Representatives on the Republican side. Speaker Johnson sent them home, told them not to show up. So while those service members that you were just talking about, federal workers, are going to have to show up to work tomorrow and not get paid, these Republican members of Congress refuse to even show up to work and do their job. That is why we're here today.
You held a town hall tonight to talk with your constituents about the impacts of a shutdown. Tell us about that conversation.
Yeah, right after the votes that we had in the Senate, I did a telephone town hall to reach across all across New Jersey. We had over 6,000 people dial in to be able to listen to this, and what I heard from them was really powerful. People talking about, there was a woman named Lucinda who talked about the concerns that she has. She told me to hold the line because she cannot afford her health care. She would have to give it up if she's not able to continue to get the support for the ACA through the marketplace. I had a woman named Barbara who talked about the challenges that her family's facing, but she put it in that context, saying that this is a challenge that people are hearing and facing all across America right now. This is real. You know, this is something that cannot be looked at as just some partisan power struggle, as a tug of war between political parties trying to see who they blame. Real lives are at stake. Tomorrow and in the coming days, millions of Americans will realize that their health care is going to go through the roof. Many of them will see their prices double. About 4.5 million Americans will lose their health care. Over 20 million Americans will have to pay extraordinary prices. This is a crisis of the Republicans' making, and we have to do everything we can to solve it.
We spoke to a Republican senator from West Virginia, Shelley Moore Capito, a few hours ago. We asked her if she was concerned about the cuts to the Affordable Care Act that Democrats are in part shutting down the government over. Let's take a listen to what she had to say.
I'm absolutely concerned 60,000 West Virginians get a subsidy for their premium support. That doesn't expire until December 31st. That begins a new year of premium support in January. We have time to work on this issue. We've been talking about this issue with our Democrat counterparts, with the president. I think the president is very interested in seeing that we reach a solution here. And so I think that what you're going to see is some kind of compromise, but we have to keep the government open while we reach and have those negotiated talks on premium support.
If Republicans are willing to negotiate over this, why shut the government down now when the deadline of the ACA is December 31st?
Well, it's not December 31st, and that's the problem, is that is out of touch with what is actually happening. The fact is that the open enrollment begins on November 1st when it comes to people getting their health care, and a lot of families are going to be looking at the increased costs and say, I can't afford that. I'm going to have to lower the type of coverage I get or get rid of it altogether, and have to make some really tough choices. They cannot wait till Thanksgiving or the end of the year to be able to get that clarity. This is a crisis right now, and we have to respond to it. And that is what I just fail to see, how my colleagues can be so callous in the face of so many challenges that Americans are facing for their loved ones or themselves to get care when they need it most.
They have tried all their best to renegotiate whatever with our all in alls, and it never happened. And we've seen that within the shortest possible time, both the Republicans and the Democrats were just trooping EU from where? Always in Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso, because they know what is happening. And because they didn't want the world to see, they were trying to reassociate themselves so they can continue to be getting the resources cheap to feed and cover up and make sure the nation stands on its feet while we suffer here in Africa. But our all in all never gave in. Now they are blaming each other, Republicans and Democrats, the downfall of what is happening. And if only the African will rise up, unite, and know that whatever we have been fed with by the media, that these people are the ones that are feeding us, we are depending on them, for us to channel the energy into fighting to reclaim our sovereignty and the resources, we will smile. We will smile because we are not the ones begging these people. They give us peanuts in broad daylight, but they take the African resources, everything, in the dark, when you and I are deeply asleep. So because you don't see it in broad daylight that they are taking things out of the continent, you think that they are the ones that are helping us. Africa, we need to rise up. We need to wake up, especially the youth. The future is in our hands. We cannot continue to be feeding ourselves with this, like Captain Ibrahim Traore was advising the young ones, going on social media and all you do is watch unnecessary things. Where there is information that would change the African that is crying for freedom, we don't want that. Let's rise up. These political party colors we are wearing can never give us a change, because we've seen these two parties rule and there has not been any change. And you continue to believe that vote for change is what is going to change the narrative in your country. They are crying. Look at how they have been begging Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso. So if all the 54 countries should say goodbye to these people, what do you think Africa will be? The resources, we know the leaders, but the leaders that we have are leaders that were given to us by these people, so they can never serve the interests of the African. And that is what we need to understand. Other people think that the West and America have nothing to do with what is happening in Africa. We need to wake up. They are the ones that are always giving us the leaders that are leading us in Africa. So the leaders always act in their interest. And the system called democracy, we can never survive and change the narrative in Africa if we continue to practice the system of governance by our oppressors. And that is why they don't want any African country to move out of that system. Because the moment you do, they lose control over your assets. They can no longer control you, the leader. And that is why they keep on supporting leaders like Paul Biya, Nyasungbe, and the rest in the democratic elected countries, praising them for doing nothing, for allowing them to continue to be carrying the resources while you and I suffer the most. We are the reason to which these people are surviving and they are living. And until we realize that and fight for the African, we will continue to suffer.